Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We are here again with another minute breakdown of a Yeti Online Weekly. This is our biggest Yeti to date. We have 75 players in the Yeti Online that was taking place yesterday, which is technically May 30th, second week of MRC. And we have some interesting lists. As you can already see up on screen here, I took the top 10 players, everything that was trying to be 3-0 or 3X and 4-0. And we have about like 3 different Sylvia lists in here. We have a Luxem, we have some Merlin, we have some Fire Xander, we have a whole bunch of lists. We're going to break them down in this video. Please note, as a disclaimer, we are not doing pricing currently. Because of the fact that pricing is sort of everywhere and ballooning, the set has been popular, people are getting into the game, prices are skyrocketing everywhere. You see Dungeon Guides being about $30, you can see certain cards being from $60, and the prices are just everywhere. So just for the sake of how much this is currently ballooning, I am not putting pricing in these videos. I do apologize. If people still want to see what the balloon price, please let me know in the comments. I'll add them back in. I'm hoping to add them back once they settle down. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump right into it with our very first 4-0, technically our first place player of Steve-O. Steve-O was in this video last week, and Steve's going to go ahead and be in video this week. This week, we're running Fire Lorraine. So this is, as we talked about, Fire Lorraine before, otherwise known as Ferrari Lorraine. The list is about what you expect for the most part. You have nothing new in the material deck here. Going into the main deck, you have the Flectasia, Gildas, Arthur. But we do have a couple of different additions here. You still have the Crimson tier, which is good because the fact if you're level 1, every champion's in human, you're going to get your 3-2 attack swings. You get 4-2, especially if you have something like Arthur already on the field. And then if you go down a little bit further, we have Home by Fires, which is the main combo. You pretty much Home by Fire at the beginning of your recollection step. Give +2 to your sword, give it durability, and then you try and get in there for a big fire momentum, a big flame sweep. You go for a big rending flames. So a couple of things that can be thrown into it with this list, as well as a blazing throw to add on top. Nothing else is really new. We do have Reduce to Ash in here, which is a short target item weapon memory cost 0 or reserve card 4 or less. Pretty much it is our fast speed Spurn the Ash. Better than Spurn the Ash because the fact that it's fast speed doesn't hit the one memory target units, just like a Scepter, but it does let you hit Nullify Lantern at fast speed. So your opponent tries to get a Nullify Lantern out, set up the turn. If you leave cards up at the end of their turn, you go ahead and kill their Nullify Lantern, which then you're able to go ahead and combo off on your following turn. You have the Running Flames, the Concept, you have Temper Seals, and the Vermilion Decree. This one is honestly second best decree, I think, in my opinion. The fact that you go ahead and get 3 damage to a champion, 2 damage up to an ally, or you go ahead and each player draws a card, you pretty much like an Increasing Danger, but just replace itself. You don't really net one like Increasing Danger does, but it's for 3 with an imbue 3 cost. So you do get a lot of good benefits out of it, especially at the fast speed. And going into our sideboard, we have Ornamental Greatsword and Protect Trinket, Impact Hammer, which is new. This is the one, this is a class bonus +1, so it is a 2-2 attack. But whenever you attack with this weapon, it does deal 3 to you. So you do damage to yourself, but you do get the extra 1 damage because you are using the hammer. And you can materialize it with Lorraine because of the fact it is a 0-cost weapon. You have 1 Deflecting Edge, 1 Blazing Throw, 1 Flame Reservoir, 2 Focus Flames, so go to deal with a little bit of the ally matchup. And Reduce Ash in there as well if you're expecting to see a lot more Nullify Lantern. Well, keep brought in because everyone's going to bring in Null Lantern in the future matchups. Very interesting list from Steve-O. Fire Lorraine is probably one of the older metas, I want to say, that we have, or archetypes that we have in the game currently. This is a list, you're sort of in the weird spot right now, where beginning of every new set, or every new archetype, or whatever meta, whatever you want to call it, Agro reigns supreme. It's like this in multiple TCGs, so don't be surprised, don't be discouraged. I've seen a lot of aggro decks up here in the top, because people are experimenting and brewing and find out what works best, and because that aggro usually just does really, really well. You do have a Sentai Pei around the corner, so don't be surprised if you see a really high aggro list in that as well. Maybe pick up one of these lists if you're well piloted on it, but something to keep in mind if you're going to a Sentai Pei. Going into deck number 2, we have Happy Tilt. Congrats to Happy Tilt. They've sent a couple different requests. I'm going to hype up a card in here that they told me about, so we're going to go into it. You do have Spirit of Fire Xander, level 1 and Xander level 2. This is the Fiza, whatever you want to pronounce it. I do Fiza. Everx is going to yell at me. Noel's going to yell at me. Everyone's going to yell at me. Fiza. It's not sponsored by Little Caesars, by the way. So you have Assassin Ripper. We do have an Excalibur in here. I mean, best card in the game. It is a class bonus if you can't use it though. But you can, whenever materialize a card, deal 2 damage to your champion. So if you want to go ahead and get a free sword, to go ahead and get an extra 1 attack in because you're not using something like Sword of Seeking, yeah, it can work with that exact reason in mind. You can go ahead and get it for that. So I don't mind Excalibur Sword. And please note that I am saying this with all the sarcasm in the face because this was just in here for the memes. Happy. I told you I was going to hype it up. I did a little bit, but I'm going to honor your request and not hype it up too much more. But I need to start flying through these a little bit. Quicksilver Grow is going to get in there. We have Rook and Soul Knife in there. The fact that you can materialize it for fast speed. Going to the main deck, you have Lurking Assailant, which is normal. Stable Remnant, the card is good. It becomes a 2/1 attacker. Same time, it is a floating memory because of the fact it's just a flat floating memory unit. Arthur, Blazing Throw, Catherine Cutthroat. Catherine Cutthroat is new. The fact it does deal an extra +1 and has on-deck deal 1 to your champion. So up before it is replacing your Blitz Mages in this deck. So it is a 2/1, technically 3/1 for dealing 1 for 2 costs, which is pretty good. You have Clumsy Apprentice, Crazy Arsonist, Crazy Courier. Pretty much everything about here is the same all the way down. And this one also goes back and adds a Vermilion Decree. Because you're running so much fire, the dealing the 3 in each player drawing card, or dealing 3 and killing an ally, something like a Shieldmate or a Library Witch that could be in your way, is strong to have. Going to the sideboard, you have Safeguard Amulet, you have Smoke Bomb. Smoke Bomb is going to deal with those Taunters units. You have Radiant Protect Trinket for the Water matchup. You have Scavenger Raccoons to deal with the Erupting matchups. And then you have 3 Blitz Mages, just another ally in there. Go ahead and throw in the Blitz Mage and get the 3 attack. Even though we already have something like the Captain Cutthroat, Blitz Mage itself is still a good card. Congrats again to Happy, going 4-0. Let's get into deck number 3. With deck number 3, we have Axis, playing Fire Lorraine. This is the robot list, lack of better terms. You do run Lorraine, you do run a backup charger. It's pretty much just a replacement GCR. This card's really strong. I like it. You are running Mercurial Heart. The fact it is a power cell, you get a buff counter on Automaton. I'm not sold on this card. There's a couple people that reviewed this card. I'm not high on it, but hey, if it works in the list, it works in the list. It's 4-0, so something might be doing good. Because the fact it comes in, we can go ahead and give our Charge Mannequin the +1 because it gets a 2/3, especially if Mercurial Heart. It already is a power cell on the field, so you don't have to worry about generating your own tokens. The Fighting Edge and Inspiring Call, normal, Lurking Assailant as well. Turbocharge, if you want to go ahead and stack your power cells to get 2 cards. Ace Protector to bounce a couple of cards. And Droka, strong card, really good card. It comes in as a 2/2 with Vigor. On it to put a buff comes to 2 Automaton allies to you buff it itself to a 2/3, or buff anything else to get a lot of strong attacks. A Tune on the Winds to buff your entire board. Salvan card to create some power cell tokens as floating memory. Dream Fairy just to deal with some annoying pesky units that might have taunt like Shieldmate or Deer or Library Witch. Yeah, favorable winds to go ahead and get a floating memory and buff, keep your board alive for through a flame sweep if you're able to. Rose comes in, was a Guardian Warrior, does have the class bonus fast activation, also becomes a 2/3 on enter. Is an Automaton, so you're going to buff out and Droka if you want. 4 Simic Assassins, 3 Vigilant Sentries. This is a Guardian over taunt, so it is just a really good 2/3. You don't get the class bonus of the taunt, but overall it is a good 3-drop 2/3 unit. Then you have Wind card to go ahead and reveal Wind card. Pretty much you're running pretty much stuff a Vigilant Sentry for this reason. You hit the on hit on reveal. If it's a wind, you might put it back. You may put Wind card back in your hand. You're going to get the +1 attack, and then go ahead and use stuff like Inspiring Call because you're using attack cards like this, and it's pretty much replacing itself to then cast something like your Inspiring Call. 3 Windmill Engineer going to imbue in the floating memory. 4 Wind Reverend card because it's a good 2/3 with Vigor and class bonus, and Zephyr as well. Going to the sideboard, you have the Eye of Argus to help deal with sort of stealth units. Give one of your units True Sight. Deal with something that might have stealth if you need it. Smoke Bombs to give a Taunter stealth so you can avoid it. 4 Cleanse Immunity to deal with their erupting matchups. 3 Hurricane Sweeps to deal with their ally matchups. And 2 Stifling Trap to deal with something like Fire Merlin or anything else to go ahead to an early level 3 game. You're going to Stifling Trap to sort of stall out that game plan. Congrats to Axis. This is probably going to be the new Wind Allies that we're going to be seeing. I think it's going to replace Wind Allies. Automatons are really strong. It's a lot of synergy. So this is probably going to be your go-to Wind Allies going forward. It is going to be the Automaton build. So if you're going to play Wind Allies, I recommend going and trying to check out Automatons. You might end up liking it for yourself. And we're going to go ahead into our next list. We're going to go into our 3-1 section now with Landon Arrow. So Landon going and brought in the Fire Merlin. We had the Fragment Spirit of Fire, which comes in and gets the Glimpse 6. You have the Merlin. You have the backup charge to go ahead and draw a card. It's pretty much you have a secondary GCR on a stick. And then going to the rest of the list, you have the normal list. You have Dungeon Guides, you have some Fast Gears and Library Witch, and some Resolute Stands running 4, expecting a lot of aggro. So pretty good play on his part. And then we have 4 Shieldmates, 2 Turbocharges. Because you get Turbocharge off of stuff like Self Forging. Going to do a Self Forging, get 2 durability on your weapon. You're going to give you durability to something like a Drawn Blade if you want. And then you can summon a Power Cell token if you want as well. So you can summon some Power Cells, get Turbocharge, you're going to draw some extra cards. 4 Great Shocks versus normal. Premium Rich as well. Devastating Blow, Fireball. Flame Rune Stormin, Focus Flame, Hasty. Serene Fractal will help deal again with those ally matchups. You're expecting a lot of allies. Aggro Run Supreme. 2 Croxites, 4 Pendragons, best card, one of the best cards in the game. And 3 Cardate Magistries to go ahead and get your Deer out and pretty much try and stabilize versus those aggro list. Pretty much the standard Merlin list we've been seeing for Lyle, a couple addition cards with Turbocharge and Self Forging as well. Going to the sideboard, you have Nullifying Lantern for the erupting matchups. You have Viridian Protection Drink. You have 2 Blanche for the deal with the Mirror or something like a Rye that wants to go ahead and burn you out. You have 3 Exercise Curses, 2 Disintegrates for the mirror match, and you have 2 Tethered Flames if you want to go and get some counter spells. But that's pretty much, I'm not going to spend too much time on Merlin. We know what Merlin does at this point. And we're going to go into the next list. We have Lincoln over here in Serene Spirit, Wind Xander. So this is pretty much Lux and Xander with a little bit of twist. With a little bit of twist, you're running Wind this time. You're running Wind. You have still Dungeon Guide and Gwaines in here. If you have Incapacitates that we talked about before, having a 2-drop counter spell is really, really good. Really, really strong. It's normal. You can go on and run it for pretty much no downside. Again, it doesn't banish, but again, it's a good counter spell. Steam of Wisdom, Steven Caught, Vanish Light's normal. We are decided to add the 3 Stifling Traps to help slow down your opponent, especially if you're facing the mirror matchup. You can prevent the Dungeon Guide from your opponent. And then you also have Force Surveillance, because the fact that you are an assassin, you use this as fast, you have to draw a card and then put a preparation card on your champion. You're pretty much set up into future Thieving Cuts turns. You can pretty much just set up for those as much as you want. And the fact that you get the preparation card and get to draw and replace itself is strong as you get to go and filter through your list. You have 4 Excaliburs, 4 Gleaming Cuts, 4 Light Reduce Salt, 4 Luxem Sights, 3,000 Refractions, which is a little bit newer. That's also good for the preparation counts because of the fact you get to go ahead and get the on-hit ability. You can go ahead and use a couple preparation counts a couple different times. You're going to get the on-hit, prepare, wake up your champion, and return to your hand and try and combo off with that if you're able to. And 4 Uncover the Plot. In the sideboard, you have Quicksilver Grail, 2 Blanche, 4 Exercise Curses, 4 Exploit Vulnerability. As a card that goes, you get to prepare 1, and then you get to draw a card. And if it's prepared, you choose an assassin unit you control, and it gets on ally hit to show you the hit ally. You can pretty much use that with Grain if you want to clear up a couple different taunters without having to really sacrifice too much on Gwain's ability. And you have Cleansing Region for the erupting matchups as well. So really interesting take over on the Luxem Xander. Pretty much the same, but also a little bit different with a twist. If you really like the Luxem Xander list, recommend you go and check this out. This list seems pretty fun to play. And I like running the Stifle Trap and the Surveillance. It's a pretty, Serene is a really strong card. And they come in these Recollection sets. If you can't find any of Recollection sets, there's a couple, some of them, Mitch's Merlin Marketplace. Wow. Mitch's Merlin Marketplace? Sure. Merlin Marketplace. Go ahead and check this out. The people selling some open packs. You can check those out and try and get some cards there if you want. Shout out to Mitch. Note, this video is not sponsored. Mitch, pay me. So we're going to go on to the next list here. We have Blue. Blue? I'm going to go Blue. Blue is running Spirit of Slime Sylvie. This is pretty much a Recollection deck that came out. You have Spirit of Slime Sylvie comes in. You're going to set up a couple different. You have stuff like the Guy's Blessing to get some banishment, Horn of Beast Skull to reduce some cost, Slime Totem, Stone Scalebound to get some fast speed spells, and Verdant Scepter. The main combo deck is you're going to try and get Storm Slime. Storm Slime is going to go ahead and combo off, deal a bunch of damage, and then try and get in for 3, if not 5, depending if you play it with Sylvie for a free cast. You get 2 buff counters on it, and the whole point is going to try and combo off and deal a whole bunch of damage with your Storm Slime. You can combo off with stuff like Slime Eruption, go ahead and banish any amount of Fire Element Slime cards, and then you choose 2, and then you can deal damage equal to what was used for it. And then you go ahead and hit the Floating Memory as well. You run Dungeon Guide, some Forest Cake for some draws and some buff counters, Limitless Slime, and Mechanical Hair as well in this list. This list is pretty standard, what we've seen from Sylvie's. If we have about 3 other Sylvie's lists in here, so we'll see how different they are. It says running 2 Slime Kings, only 1 Vampiric Slime and 1 Lustrous Slime. Pretty much the main combo point you want to try, you go ahead and Storm Slide, banish it, make something like Slime King, then get it back, try and flicker that Storm Slide, so you get the unenter effect as much as possible. And you have stuff like Red Slime to clear the board, Baby Green Slimes go ahead and do some suppressing. You can pretty much suppress weapons. You can go ahead and Green Slime, you have Slime's Blessing, and you have Slime's Shield as well. With the sideboard, we have Nullify Lantern, Bring Protect, and Trinket. A couple more Mechanical Hairs, some reprograms you're facing stuff like automatons. This card can come really strong. It is a common, thankfully, but it's going to be really good as you're expecting when allies to come on up with the automaton build. 1 Slime King and 2 Verdant Slimes. Moving on. We have Faceless Menace with I think our first Nico. I don't think we've showcased Nico last week. This is our first Nico that we have. And with Nico, it's a very interesting build. We have Spirit of Water. You do Tristan. I think I said this early on. Tristan, I think, was the best card for level 1 if you're not going into the lane trying to fight to get Agility 3. You play a card, and then get your cards back is really, really good. You have the backup charge to get the extra draw, Blinding Orb, Bulwark Sword, Grand Crusader Ring, Terrafring. You have the Cloak of Stillwater, go ahead and banish card Floating Memory from Grid and prevent the next 3. And then you get Mage Main Lash, which is normal, Scepter or Lumia, pretty much just use as a draw card. And then you have Vapor Jet Shield, which prevents the next 1 damage, and you get to pay 2 out from your Floating Memory. Down more stacks than Nico. You have Cell Slumber to go ahead and draw a couple Power Cell tokens, Charge Mannequin to get some attacks in, as well as Sable Remnant, which is a good card with Floating Memory that you can go and get in for. Even if it's a 1/1, you still get the Floating Memory mechanic off of it. You run Cell Sharpshooter. Cell Sharpshooter is going to banish card Floating Memory from your graveyard, which you run a whole bunch of. You get another Power Cell token. Serene Decree. I think probably the best decree in the entire deck. You get to replace yourself, you get a counter spell, or you get to give something -3 attack. This card's just bonkers. I love this card. It's probably why I'm going to be playing more waters going forward, and I'll probably be making some water lists that I'll publish onto the channel at some point. For Chilling Touch, you get to banish a couple cards from your opponent's memory, as well as float. Fracturize float as well. Freezing Hail gets to deal 2, keep something tapped. If you're dealing with a pesky taunter or something like a Frostborn Paladin, get it out of the way if you're possible. Frostbind for counter spells. Genii for the amount of automatons you're running. Try and use the card to float into memory. Go ahead and banish it. You get to draw a card and put a couple. Get a drone token, and then you can put 2 buff counters on an automaton ally control, which you have a couple in this list. Icebound Slam, which is one of the finishers now with Nico. The fact that you pay 5, and then you get to swing it for 8, do a whole bunch of damage, and get a bunch of Nico triggers with the Lash. Crystalline Ruins, you get to pretty much do a Lunette and a stick. You have Lost in Thought, which is good because the fact the cards cost for 0, get to put floating memory for free, get to also banish your floating memory, draw a bunch of cards is really good. Restorative Slash gets to on attack recover 3 if you need to. Also another way to deal damage with Nico with attacks. Sea Sprite Dive the Garden, give rid of some cards in your opponent's memory, and you get to opponent's graveyard, and get to deal with stuff like Erupting. Force Snow Fairy to go ahead and come in and try and keep some units tapped down, and then Song of Frost to end some combat phases if there's some interactions and tricks that you have to deal with. And the sideboard, you have Crimson Protected Trinket, pretty much another way to deal with wind cards or wind decks like Wind Crux. Verdant Protected Trinket for the Water Mirror. 4 Incapacitates, just a good counterspell if you want to play the control list a little bit. 3 programs to deal with wind allies, and 2 tidal sweeps, another way to sort of, even though you deal 1 with the sweep, it's another way to get Nico damage in there, so you have to worry about attacking through a taunter. But congrats to Faceless Many. I am really happy to see another Nico list. We do have another one by One Red Line as well. There's a video up for that somewhere on YouTube. Make sure to check that out as well. I think Nico lists are going to be really innovative. I'm excited to see a lot more Nico lists. So I hope we see more. Hope we see this deck starting to do well. Congrats again to Faceless. And we're going to move on into our deck number 7, I think. 7. No, deck number 8. Deck number 8, we do have Kinship over on Spirit or Water Diana. We do have level 1 and only level 2 only with backup charger again. I have Argus, Cascading Round, Loaded Thoughts, which is new, which is another card put top of the deck in your graveyard, so range familiar stuff, and you have Scepter Illumina. Overall, in the main board, you have Backstep, becomes this and draw card play stuff, Gilded, Reposition, and Reprogram. As you're going to see this list going around a lot. Still Sharpshooter Gun becomes range 2, become a 3/3 if you want to, and going to banish card floating and get another Scepter. This is pretty much becoming Automaton Diana. Serene Decree, one of the best cards in the game. Dahlia, which goes gets a huge range bonus. The fact is the Automaton as well. Desperate Dive gets a reaction as well as gets a deflecting edge on a stick, which is really strong. Fractal Rain gets to go ahead and build your own deck to get some floating memory in there to banish it and do some interaction shenanigans with that, as well as gets to be reservable. 4 Factorize to deal with anything that's annoying in your opponent's side of the field. 3 Freezing Rounds to go ahead and mill yourself some more. Frostborn Paladin to go ahead and get rid of your floating memory to draw a card as well as become a 3/4 attacker. Imperial Scout, range 2 as well. And whenever it becomes this, you also get the mill, try and fuel that game plan of floating memory in there. Crystalline Archer to go ahead and deal whenever you get the on attack bonus. Make this distant, become a 4/2 attacker, which is pretty much the main point of why you're running all these floating memory and mill cards in here. Lost in Thought, a way to recoup your hand. 3 Snow Fairy and Tactical Retreat to end the combat phase and have floating memory. Really interesting. I'm only running 8 sideboard cards. I'm not sure if this is on purpose. If it is, congrats. You ran an 8 card sideboard, kept it as it is, and you did well with it. You have Chilling Touch in your floating memory to deal a little more control. Desperate Dive to add more if you need to have to deal with a couple of different cards that deal a lot of damage. And Stillwater Patrol to deal with anything that might be stealth. Congrats on the Kinship. This is a really interesting water automaton list, especially Diana. We're not going level 3, which makes it even more interesting. And I'm really curious to see if this becomes the list going forward. Keep up the good work. And we're going to check out our next list. Now, the next 2 are going to be slimes. You already discovered slimes a little bit earlier, so we're going to talk about different cards that might be in here. So you have stuff like Academy Guide, early level if you want it. I'm not too sure about the list fully. I'm not sure if we don't run 4 dungeon guides, so I run Academy Guide. So it's interesting to do that. Escape the Wreckage, really interesting. You can draw a card into your memory. If you do, you draw another card in your memory. And then you can also do stuff like, interesting. So we're not running Fire Slime, which I've seen be the interaction that you escape the wreckage of Fire Slime and board wipe. But we're not running that. So I imagine what we're doing here is we're using first cards like Storm Sign, the return to your memory. Get the you don't get the on death trigger though, but it gives you a way to cast Storm Sign multiple times. You're not running Slime King, so you don't get the bonus from that. You can go ahead and get the green slime buff from leaving and giving some preparation counters to something. Then you have Ethereal Slime, which is normal. And then you run Vampiric Slime to go ahead and buff that up. So really interesting to see how... really interesting to see how Escape the Wreckage comes into play. but you do have the advantage site and you're going to try and stall the game out a little bit. Into the sideboard, you have a Nullifying Lantern for those bad matchups with Erupting, for doing checking for water, Red Slime if you're dealing with a lot of allies, which is good. This will come in for that matchup. You're running Slime if you're running something like Fire Lorraine or Rye, we have to deal with Spell Shroud, because if you play a couple of these are not unique. You're going to give you board in your champion Spell Shroud, and they can't be dealt with outside of attacks. You have Vernal Slime for a Pride 5 Taunter, and you get to deal Kill Regalia, so you're going to get rid of stuff like Nullifying Lantern. Sometimes it affects you, sometimes not too much. Congrats to ZDG. It's a really interesting list. I want to see how this comes out overall, and yeah, so to see how it turns out. And finally, Noximus's own teammate Bob. Congrats, Bob, on getting number 10th here, sliding in at the last second. So this is pretty much what we expected before. I think it's pretty much the same list, except we're running 2 Vampiric Slime versus the 1. We're running 2 Green Slimes, 4 Red Slimes, a couple of Forest Cakes, and Limitless Slime, and Young Beast Bonder as well to get the buff counter on and those right out of your control, as well as get the floating memory. And then going to the sideboard, you have the Beast Bomb Boots to give surplus to your champion. Then you have Nullifying Lantern, Tithe Proc to deal with something that likes to draw a lot. Covenant of Thorns to deal with something like giving it to a deer, so the deer would take the damage. And Beast of Frenzy, as we talked about before, I feel like I did. If I didn't, I apologize, I'll talk about it now. Beast of Frenzy is in here to get the +1 levels on the turn, so some of your units can attack like Slime King if you don't have ways like Beast Bomb Ears out just yet. You get the +1 attack on the turn, or you're going to give your Beast allies Cleave to clear the board with something like Vampiric Slime. You clear the board, recover a lot, heal a lot of your damage. It's a really interesting tech, really niche tech, but it could be really good to save you in a pinch. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is all I have for you today. This is the weekly on May 30th of Yeti. This is week 2 of MRC. Let me know if you have any questions concerned before about any list to go over. I'll try to break it down for you as much as possible. Hopefully, y'all don't mind this little bit longer bit of video. This is about 21 minutes. I try to keep it about our normal pace because the fact that there's so many decks to cover, because the meta is so new, I'm trying to cover as much as possible in these videos. But if you guys have any issues or concerns, feel free to let me know down below. And if not, I hope everyone has a good one. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. And I hope everyone has a good one. Peace.